How's it going, guys? Trey Clark and RJ here. Welcome to episode 8 of Trey and RJ Save the World. We're going to talk today about a conversation RJ and I were having earlier about the difference between what our kids are learning about our country and our Constitution and even our history versus what we learned just a generation ago. We're Generation Xers, and the millennials are not apparently learning what I thought we were, and this was kind of news to me. And after a little research, it turns out to be true. So how you doing, RJ?
Man, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful Sunday. Loving it. Like that we're getting into this because I'm spending a lot of time right now sending information to my children that are 22 and down to 14 about things that you and I were taught, even through cartoons as a kid. If you'll remember Schoolhouse Rock that came on, the Bill of Rights, amendments, went over all of that, and we were educated on it. Even we had civics classes. There are a lot of school systems, and I don't know about all of them, but I know where my kids went. They went to the same school system I did. We had civics where we learned about our government and our rights and the Constitution, and most of our kids are not getting that in a school setting now, and it's extremely important that they understand the 27 amendments that we have and how they are put in place to preserve our freedom. It's extremely important, especially for their future, that they understand this.
You were saying that you were actually kind of giving your kids homework and little incentive stuff, that it was required learning. I mean, government 1 and 2 history, world history, then U.S. history, and then Texas history. And then now it's like elective, and I'm afraid that it's just going to be wiped out of the curriculum altogether. You can take civics classes,
right,
but it's not required, and that's problematic.
In junior high for me, and I don't remember if it's 7th or 9th grade, but we had mandatory a civics class that we had to take to basically teach us about our government, the Constitution, and our rights. And so kind of going to the point you said, what I've done to my kids is I've sent them some documentaries to watch. I've challenged them to write down each of the 27 amendments, give me a definition of it, what they think about it and what it does for them. And I'm giving them a little incentive, spending money here and there for them to do that because they're not being taught these things in the school system right now. And it's just extremely important that they understand what our rights and freedoms are, especially when we're dealing in a time that we are right now where so many of our elected officials are they are, telling us what we can and can't do. And, that's not what government is in place for.
Well, it's becoming normalcy for these kids are just growing up into adulthood. My oldest daughter is 17, and she'll be on the voting block very soon.
Right.
And I don't want to get into like your kids need to be Republican or conservative or whatever.
No, they need to know their rights.
Yeah, they need to at least know the information. And what they're doing is being deprived of the information in the place we send them to learn about life. I mean, they're gone on a 40-hour work week every week, soaking in information. If it doesn't have anything to do with why the Second Amendment is there or why the First Amendment is there, we talk about how the Second protects the First, but they didn't just waste their day just by putting these amendments in place. These are people that could foresee possible issues, and they put them in here for a reason. And maybe even people our age could do a revisit to some of these things and really take a look at why they were there, why it was so important.
Right. No, they're extremely important. But we just see American people, at first we all started going along in this. And, for the most part, American people are good, law-abiding citizens. So, what the government started with their psychological warfare, telling us to stay in and do this and do that, we followed for the most part. But in the last 3 or 4 days, when people were realizing that this is a marketing campaign and that, you're more apt to die from a lot of other things than COVID-19, that we're uprising. I mean, and people are going out and protesting because we're ready to get back to work and get to normal. Now, is COVID-19 real? Yeah, it is. But this comes down to, if this happens, our kids need to understand what their rights are in the Constitution and the amendments that are there.
I mean, I was thinking, if they were really concerned about society and our health and our well-being, first thing they would do is just outlaw tobacco. They would outlaw tobacco before they would outlaw our freedom to assemble and stuff like that. And so you get to a point where you're breaking down, why is this wrong? Because I'm furious. And my kids are just kind of like, okay, they're learning that this is the way life goes. This is normal, and it's not. This is a bizarre quirk that has happened, and is very dangerous. We're treading, it's a slippery slope, in my opinion, and I don't want them to be comfortable with this. I want them to be nervous with this, and if you're educated with why these things are horribly wrong, then it's a little easier to wrap your head around.
It's suppression. I mean, that's what it is. It's suppression. And you see in the states where the governors are suppressing their states, they're uprising, and I'm not going to get in.
It's good to see, man.
Yeah, it's good to see. Hey, we have rights. I mean, we're American citizens. They're not going to control us like they want to control us. And this is what this entire COVID-19. Now, do I believe it? I know it's real. Okay, I'm not saying it's not real. I know it's real, but it has been blown so far out of proportion and taken so far out of context.
And there's so many lies attached to it.
As far as fear. It's all this is about is fear, like you were talking about last night. And I've talked to my kids, and they're just going along with everything that's going on. And I'm like, look, you need to wake up. I want you to read your amendments. I want you to understand your freedoms that you have. So when you get older, this happens again, you know what it is in place for. The government's here to serve us, not us to serve the government. I mean, that's just the way that it is.
What has been the response of your kids after, like, you say, hey, I need you to look at this, whatever incentives you give them, or just maybe send it to them, and then after you talk to them afterwards, do you feel kind of a light bulb going off?
I do. I definitely do, especially like in the First Amendment rights, and that's really important to me, the First Amendment, because
it is the most.
They're in a time where a lot of kids, which I said yesterday, under the age of 35, believe the First Amendment should be, taken out because it offends people. Well, America, we offend people. That's what the Constitution is, freedom of speech. You can say what you want, and we need to have that. We don't need to take that out. So what, we offend someone because we haven't a belief. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well, what conversation is worth having if you're not kind of stirring up and digging in a little bit?
Right.
If I want to get to the nitty gritty of it, how am I not going to be offended? Or how am I not going to offend someone? I mean, non-offensive speech doesn't get you anywhere. There's no learning experience that comes from that. And the First Amendment, I mean, the freedom of the press, as stupid as they sound sometimes, I believe they should be able to say whatever they want. But I also want us to pay attention to the fact that it is a machine. It's a propaganda machine, but I think it should be legal. I want to say what I want to say, and I'm not willing to give up my liberty to take away theirs. But some people, young people think that it is a healthy way to move forward, and if you don't have to be a history buff to know that doesn't work out well.
Right. Well, it's just like they don't want to get their feelings hurt. It's like the whole thing that goes into, get a trophy no matter whether you win or lose. I understand there's a difference in competitive and recreational sports. It's just, it's like always giving something whether you've achieved something or not. And it's extremely important that our kids understand this, and especially the millennials. And not all millennials are like this. There are a lot of good ones out there.
Absolutely. And I do want to make that point. Yeah. There are a lot of millennials that are pissed at millennials.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like our generation.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, in this, we're not basic. I mean, what we are is we want every group, no matter what group they are, to have the freedom to speak and, give what they think about.
It's the first generation, though, that is entertaining this idea that maybe we shouldn't be able to say what we want. That's the scary part. And it has, you know what? They're products of us, of our teachings. There are children. And so whatever we're letting happen, and we can blame the boomers, we can blame the educational system or whatever, there are children. And I have to take a step back every now and then and go, you know what? I have to take responsibility for what my kids know, not what they believe, but at least the information that is being presented to them. And if I'm relying on the educational system, which I bitch about constantly, and I haven't given it to them, then it's kind of shame on me at that point.
And another thing that really disturbs me is a lot of institutions, college educational institutions, only push their agenda, period. And it's like if you don't believe in that and what they believe, then you're an outcast.
And you'll get bad grades.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
you're
right.
So, well, we're going to wrap this up here. I hope this is helpful, but I want to just touch base that this is our time. A lot of people blame the generation before them. You know, we could blame the greatest generation for handing our money over to the feds. We could blame the boomers on all the debt. But right now, it's our time. This is our world that we're going to leave our children, and information is key, at least in understanding, give them a fighting chance to understand why it's a bad idea to give up our liberties. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Knowledge is power.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this up. How's your soul, buddy?
Man, my soul is great. How's your soul today?
Man, I don't know. I'm better than I deserve. It seems this is one of those times where I kind of surprise myself that I have more hope than some people probably do right now. I feel like this is going to work out.
I have a lot of hope. I've never really, I don't allow fear-mongering to get into my life. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of the military training, but also common sense comes into play when as far as my beliefs, I try to look at it, from all angles and use common sense. The one thing I want to end on is America as a country, we never, ever, ever, ever give up, ever. So if you're feeling down or something's not right, don't give up. Keep pushing forward, stay positive, don't give up. This is coming to an end. We're going to be back to normal, and America will be as strong as we ever were, as we were before, excuse me. We just need to stick together and be Americans and continue to move forward like Americans do. We persevere and we never give up.
I mean, what thought that just came to mind is, what if we end up better? What if this time that everyone's kind of like in a little shock, and then we're doing our own research and stuff, that we realize actually we could be a lot better? And that's what I'm hopeful for, that maybe we were doing some things wrong that we won't do wrong anymore, as far as what we're complacent about. Maybe it's with our bodies, or with where we spend our time, or the people or politicians we trust. And so maybe we'll end up in a better place. And that's kind of where my brain stays. So we're going to wrap this up and wish you guys a good Sunday, and tune in for the next episode. RJ, thanks, man.
Thank you, brother. Enjoyed it.
But I'm home. I only stay when I'm gone. I only ride to get thrown. I only tread not to sing. And I can't move when I'm bound by the weight of this town. But I got these wheels in the ground. I'm not saying but I'm sound. I only smoke when I drink. I only smoke when I drink. I only drink when it hurts. It only hurts every day. Every day it gets worse. Worse is being alone. At least alone I can think. Thinking's best to smoke. I only smoke when I drink. I can't run when I'm tired. I can't sleep when